So verse 22, although the limitations of the world disappear for one who knows the self, capital S, they are not destroyed because they continue to exist for others. Although the limitations of the world disappear for one who knows the self, they are not destroyed because they continue to exist for others. So just because somebody else is enlightened, that really has nothing to do with you. That's why people that talk about their guru, my guru is so enlightened, he's the highest stage of enlightenment, he's completely liberated, blah, blah. Good for him. He knows the limitations of the world have disappeared for him because he knows his true self. But they're not destroyed because they continue to exist for you. So, again, you have to do the work, right? 23. The self is obscured by the world in order that the reality of both may be discovered. The self is obscured by the world in order that the reality of both may be discovered.
Sorry, I was thinking about the previous one. When you are by a person who's full of light, I don't know if it's enlightenment, it's completely, but it immediately you feel different. So maybe yes, it's good for him and he blah blah blah, it's his journey, but being by a person like that boosts
it's extremely beneficial, and it will, just being in the presence of someone like that, it helps, and it will raise your consciousness automatically. You don't really even have to do anything, just be there. But, and that's good, but you're not going to become enlightened just from being in the physical presence of a master. So 23, the self is obscured by the world in order that the reality of both may be discovered. What do you think that means? What do you think he's saying there?
I think
it's pretty deep.
That it's confusing and the self, and once it's what it really is, what the world is and what the self is confusing at first, and once you start to wake up, then what it really is discovered.
That's right. So when you wake up, are you just understanding the spiritual realms? Are you just enlightened regarding the spiritual realms, or are you enlightened regarding the spiritual and the physical realms, right?
Your perception about what is outside is completely different when you're alive. That's the point?
Yeah, and so not only do you gain knowledge of the soul and God and all, you understand the world too now, too. In addition to the spiritual insight, you have a worldly insight. You understand this realm as well at the same time. Okay? So enlightenment is enlightenment and knowledge of the soul, God, but it's also knowledge and enlightenment about this world that we live in too. Both. He says both may be discovered. 24. It is the ignorance of our real nature that causes the self to be obscured. We talked about that last time. When ignorance is destroyed, the self is liberated from its identification with the world. This liberation is enlightenment. Okay, when ignorance is destroyed, the self, the soul, is liberated from its identification with the world. Why?
Why? Because you really know yourself. You have truth self. So in that moment, everything becomes light.
So when you discover that you are infinite, why are you liberated from your identification with the world?
Because the world is impermanent.
Right, because the world is finite. So when you discover, when you realize, beyond the shadow of any doubt, that you're infinite, you no longer identify with anything that is not infinite. This liberation is enlightenment. Verse 26. Ignorance is destroyed by the undisturbed discrimination between the self and the world. The undisturbed discrimination between the self and the world. One who can tell the difference. This is infinite, this is not. There are 7 stages in the growth of this wisdom. And I'm going to read a commentary that describes those 7 stages, because you notice he doesn't tell you the 7 stages, does he? He just says there are 7 stages in the growth of this wisdom. Okay, what are they? Patanjali, remember, this is a thin text, right? This was not meant to be a treatise on everything yoga, okay? It's a super short, succinct, concise text that was meant to actually be later unpacked by someone that was knowledgeable and could explain its contents. So it's like the blueprint. It's our job to expand upon that blueprint, right? So luckily, I have a commentary that tells me the 7 stages, so I'll read them to you. At the first stage, we discern the restrictive conditions that must be removed and are inclined to commit to concentrated, constructive spiritual practice. Okay? Hopefully we're all there. At the second stage, restrictions which have the potential to cause suffering or misfortune are weakened to the extent that they are no longer influential. So we're beginning to burn off karma at the second stage, removing these restrictions, these samskaras that have the potential to cause suffering. They begin to become weakened. At the third stage, superconscious states, or samadhi, which enable us to examine the fine characteristics of our consciousness, are frequently experienced. At the fourth stage, when meditating, we can comprehend our relationship to the mind and to internal and external phenomenon and experience episodes of self-realization. At the fifth stage, mental impressions no longer modify or cause changes in awareness. Self-realization is constant. Episodes of cosmic consciousness may be experienced. The sixth stage is God realization. Cosmic forces regulated by the 3 constituent attributes, the gunas, of nature no longer cause changes in our awareness. And the seventh stage is complete liberation. Okay, so those are the 7 stages of growth. Verse 28, the distinction between pure consciousness and the world is revealed by the light of knowledge when the nervous system has been purified by the practice of yoga. The distinction between pure consciousness and the world, between finite and infinite, is revealed by the light of knowledge when the nervous system has been purified by the practice of yoga. Okay? Spiritual growth is a physiological process. Okay, spiritual growth is a physiological happening process.
Your cells.
Does that make sense?
Change.
Yeah.
It's new.
Everything about you
I never
can change, particularly the nervous system. As you practice yoga, your nervous system becomes more and more purified and refined so that you can experience higher states of consciousness. Okay?
What's an example of a higher state of consciousness?
Samadhi, realizations, maybe ecstatic states of bliss, things like that.
Realizations is probably common. Aha moments.
Aha moments.
Yeah.
What's a hum?
But again, that's not a higher spiritual state. That's just you having an aha moment. A higher spiritual state is something where your being is different than it is in a normal state.
I think that's what I'm trying to ask, because besides samadhi, it's not I'm not talking about a place of no mind necessarily. What I've experienced is information that comes to me.
But those aren't higher spiritual states of consciousness.
Those aren't.
Right, that's just information downloads, right? From God, from the Akashic records, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
But your nervous system does not need to be prepped for you to have those downloads, or at least I don't think it really, not necessarily. To experience a samadhi type of state, you have to have a more refined nervous system, okay? For instance, some people when they're young might experiment with psychedelic drugs, for instance.
Yeah.
And they might have these kundalini experiences, these awakening experiences. But because their nervous system has not been purified and refined, they can't handle it. They're not ready for it. And so they freak out. And they probably never want to do anything spiritual again for the rest of their lives because they're so tainted by that early Kundalini experience that they weren't ready for because they hadn't done the work to purify the body. Your body is a temple for God, right? It's a vessel or temple for the divine. So in order for the divine to manifest fully in your body, it needs to be clean. It needs to be pure. It needs to be ready, prepared, right? Yeah.
Going back a little bit real quickly, with a basic level of the purification, the redevelopment of the nervous system, would that be healing, the Sushumna breath?
The Sushumna breath,
the down the spine.
yes, the Sushumna breath is one of the best things you can do to refine your nervous system and to prepare your body to increase your capacity for the divine. Sushumna breath is one of the best because it purifies the nervous system, right? You're taking prana and bringing it up and down the spine,
Right.
through all the channels, all the nadis, the prime channel, actually the central channel, which is the Sushumna nadi. And so you're moving this purifying, enlivening energy up and down the spine and through the nervous system,
Wow.
which has a cleansing effect. It's like taking a shower every day for your energetic body.
It's more than just a deep breath.
It's like daily chakra hygiene,
Wow.
you know, the Sushumna.
Good.
So,
Chakra deodorant.
chakra deodorant. That's right. So everybody understands that, right? How spirituality is kind of a physiological process. Does that make sense to everybody, more or less?
It has to be. We have a body.
Because you have to prep the body for these experiences. Otherwise, you're not going to be ready for them, and you're going to freak out. Even low-level samadhi experiences sometimes. Who's watched the video that Azu gave you so far?
Kundalini.
That guy, remember, he had that early Kundalini experience, and he had the weird back stuff. And what happened to him? He freaked out, right? Was he ready? Was his body purified and refined and ready to accept the divine energy in his... No. So he freaked out. So again, it's good to prepare for these things.
But at the same time, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You want. But at the same time, I was talking about Toulouse the other day. It presents like it's a long journey. It's not something that will come quite like, we're starting the yoga training and it will happen next month.
Right.
It presents like something that goes with years.
You
So
can
I even
begin...
asked him, and I asked you, do you ever had a Kundalini experience like that?
Yeah. A lot. But again, those are my experiences, right? So, and many of them actually I wasn't ready for. But I will say this, because when you do have these experiences, you know all this stuff's real. I have a Sushumna nadi. I have chakras. I have Kundalini energy in me. Oh, okay. I'm really not my body. I'm not. Then but it takes a while for the body to process what just happened to it. My body probably wasn't even ready for that experience, to tell you the truth. And all the experiences I've had, even the samadhi experience that lasted for a while that I talked to you about, my body wasn't ready for that, and I freaked out a little bit after that. I felt kind of frazzled. So, again, yoga, prepping the body for higher states of consciousness, physiological, okay? And Sandy, would you mind just sharing your out-of-body experience, or kind of what that meant for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind, no.
Yeah.
I was just having a massage where I work. It was an hour-and-a-half massage, but with someone who was also a craniosacral practitioner. She does some energy work and all that. And I've been to her a number of times before. It wasn't frightening. It wasn't even dramatic. It was
Saw
just...
yourself?
I didn't really see, but I felt. I just felt that I was not grounded anymore. But it wasn't scary. It wasn't threatening.
Like
It
a
wasn't...
floating.
It wasn't. It was just a sense that I couldn't even describe it. It was just, I had just left,
Right.
but it was momentary, and it was really, it was peaceful. It was a really good feeling, and then I was back with no effort, no conscious will, no. It just all of a sudden I was back, and I realized where I was back on the table, and we finished the
peaceful when you
massage.
got back?
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, there was no like jolt, like jerking myself back down into my body and saying, oh, this is scary. It was just a natural flow. And then,
Just came back. by
yeah,
natural.
and it was no conscious effort. And it was not very long, but I just came back. And it was towards the end of the massage. I was getting towards the end of the massage. And I could barely get up off the table and walk. I mean, I was like walking like...
Did you feel real
like
heavy?
this. Not really. I just felt like I still wasn't back 100% yet. I was still kind of. I mean, I was back in my body, but my consciousness wasn't totally connected yet. And fortunately, I live 5 minutes away from there, so I got my car and I was
You
able
could
to
walk if
drive
you had
home.
to.
Right.
Yeah, but I've never had
Or
a feeling
hover.
like that before.
Mm.
But it was not threatening, it was not scary, it was just really a peaceful, wonderful feeling. And it was just like, and that's, like you were saying, makes you realize that the physical
this
body
stuff's
is
real.
just,
And we're
and the
learning
physical
and-
body is just a shell, you know.
Right.
I mean,
So it was
that was
pretty amazing.
wow. That's. I mean, I'm sure, Martha, you felt. I'm sure all of us felt some energy, something that, you know, you probably don't realize it was something, but it was something.
Mm.
Sometimes we don't realize.
Yeah, these experiences aren't all like super profound fireworks and.
Right.
No, but
Right.
thank you for sharing because I agree exactly. I ask,
Yeah.
because sharing with people I trust. I mean, reading books or seeing even the videos, it's great. It's not that I don't trust, but hearing people, normal people that you trust, living this experience, giving you like more reality factor, and yes, I can feel a peaceful and I can feel a flow. I mean, but a flow like a flow of energy,
Mhm.
like
You feel
the
something.
energy we do. It's the energy that you know it's coming there, and you feel more bright or more there or more happy or more peaceful. But nothing.
There's something there. It's real.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing
I
more.
have a
And it's
similar
good to
experience.
know because you know it's real.
Yeah.
It's more than the.
It's all real, and it doesn't matter if you have these. You know, I was just watching a video this morning from Roy Eugene Davis, who's a teacher of mine, and he was talking about just actually exactly what we're talking about right now, and having these visions and these, you know, just amazing Kundalini experiences and stuff. And he says so many people get attached to that, and it actually becomes an obstacle because they try to reproduce it every time they meditate, every time they do yoga. They're trying to get back to that same ecstatic, blissful state or wherever they were at. And that becomes an obstacle to your practice and growth. So it's not about those experiences. It's about what you can gain from them. And if you gain something from them, then they're beneficial. If you don't gain anything from them at all, then they're really not doing anything for you.
And they're also there to let you know that there's something else here. It's not just.
That's the main
Yeah,
thing.
That's another reason why we go through them, to remind us, oh, there's something else here. It's not just what we see here, you know, just a room, us physical, or something more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
Yeah.
that's why we go through them to know. Oh, remember, it's a remembering.
It doesn't happen
that's
all
actually-
the time, but when it does happen, it's a nice reminder.
It's a reminder.
And it might be a channel open, no?
It's a
Too,
channel,
like with
and-
the turn
yeah, sure,
the
any-
Reiki and everything.
Sure, everything, anything. It's
I
a reminder.
don't know really what happened with
Who
my
we really
Reiki things, but at the same
That
time,
reminds me.
you know there's an
Yeah.
energy and
Yeah, there's something there.
experiencing give
Yeah.
you more reality.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
remember.
That you just talk and that reminds me an experience that I want to share with you.
Mhm.
Like 3 years ago, I was kind of half dream, half awake, and it was at noontime, and I felt like I was flying, like I was not there. And my roommate saw my face was very white, like they thought I had a fever or something. Then I was dreaming actually. I was just sleeping and not dreaming, and my eyes still moving. So I felt like I was in the sky, and I saw like I was on a plane. Like I saw the thing that around, and then it's just naturally I just came back, and I saw my mom and my dad, and I said, do I come back? Yeah, I come back. I see my mom, and I just come between my mom and dad. It was so fast, and I felt a little bit not comfortable. And I said, what if I have a parachute? And I just felt like I was just all of a sudden, but it was very warm that time, the feeling. And when I woke up, I felt like all my body was really hot, really warm. And my roommate just touched me and said, "You have a fever?" But I forgot that experience. Like just reminds me.
Pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's really
So that just kind of like helped remind you that you're not just your body, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can be out here all over the place all at once, then you're obviously more than just Lynn, right? You know,
Yeah.
and that's what these experiences do. And again, you'll have some of these experiences if you keep meditating, keep doing yoga. It's inevitable. But again, don't get too attached
Right.
to the experiences. People can tell you about their experiences, you know, with astral travel and out of body, but that doesn't make you any more
Yeah.
spiritually advanced or anything like that. And people that are honest and that can do these things will tell you that. I mean, sure,
Right. Yeah.
she can she probably just go out of body at will or just astral travel, you know. But she's not gonna sit down and tell you I'm spiritually advanced because I can blah blah blah. No, but she probably has gained a lot of knowledge and information and things from that she's brought back into her life that have helped her.
Right.
Okay? So it's what you take from those experiences. Like all these
Right.
Kundalini experiences and visions and blah blah blah, whatever. You know, are they helping me in my life?
Right.
Or how are they serving my life?
Right.
If they're not serving my life, then
Yeah.
what good are they doing?
What's the purpose?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Right.
So make sure that if you do have these experiences, don't get too attached to them,
Right.
and just allow them to serve a purpose in your life, and to help you in your spiritual growth process.
They're not always pleasant either, at least for me.
Right, and it takes a while to assimilate them into the body, and you have to distinguish between what's a Kundalini experience and what's just something
Yeah.
else, and sometimes there's a fine line, and not all Kundalini experiences are going to be pleasant because why? Because the body isn't
Right.
ready. The nervous system is not purified, it's not refined. Your body is not going to assimilate this energy. That's why we do yoga.
And why it happens
assimilate
to a
the
person
energy.
that is not ready, apart from drugs?
Yeah, I mean they can go through depression, anxiety. You know, they can have major mental health stuff happen, or they might
But why-
have physical. They can have physical problems. They can have physical back problems.
But
You
why
know, and-
this happened to that people?
I have no idea. I
Yeah,
have no
it just
idea.
happens
They unlock.
spontaneous.
Sometimes the Kundalini
Yeah.
just unlocks itself.
Yeah. Just opens just like that.
You can have a back injury. You can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just opens. For me, it was drug use. You know, for others, it's doing Kundalini yoga. Some people fall on their back, and their Kundalini is awakened. You know, and again, are you ready for it, or not? You know, so purify. You know, do the yoga, do the meditation, do the pranayama, especially when we're talking about Kundalini and the energy and everything. Pranayama, and that'll help you assimilate the energy much better. And you don't have to just do pranayama right before you meditate in the mornings. You can do pranayama all day. There's different little pranayama techniques you can use all day long. You're stressed out, you're nervous about something, do pranayama. It doesn't have to be just for meditation time. So, the 8 limbs of yoga. Hopefully we wrote all these down. They're in your book too. They are as follows. Yama, the laws of life. Niyama, the rules for living. Asana, the physical postures. Pranayama, the breathing exercises. Pratyahara, the retirement of the senses. Dharana, steadiness of mind. Dhyana, meditation. And samadhi, the settled mind.
I'm sorry,
So
I
those
lost-
are your-
did you mention the 7 stage in growth of this wisdom?
I read through them
Oh, you did?
out of this book. That's okay. And so, the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay?
That's on your test, by the way. No,
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Well, it probably is.
Well, the 8 limbs is
Actually,
the
yeah.
7 stages is on your test.
Oh no, 7 stages? No.
I was just trying to scare Martha.
But these, memorize these. Yeah, definitely memorize
The
these.
8 limbs, definitely.
Yeah,
those
this is
are
big.
best.
Okay, memorize these.
Every yogi should know, at least know the 8 limbs.
The 8 limbs of yoga. I agree. Yes. And I want to read about the 8 limbs out of the introduction in your book. So actually, turn to page 56, where he talks about the 8 limbs. And I'm just going to read out loud, page 56, the paragraph at the bottom. You can just follow along. Many commentators have assumed that the 8 limbs are sequential stages, or steps, on the path of yoga. They have seen the first 2 limbs, yama and niyama, essentially as prerequisites for the following 6, and concluded that the final stage, samadhi, is only reached after years spent perfecting the preceding stages. This is only half the picture. It is true that the sequence of asanas, pranayama, and meditation, notice we do them in that order, comprise any daily routine of yoga. It is also true that total samadhi is the result of the other 7 limbs being fully developed. But the word samadhi is a general one, meaning the settled mind or intellect. As we have seen, there are different levels of samadhi, and the experience of complete unboundedness is only the most refined of a number of levels of tranquility. It is the settling down of the mind to whatever degree that right from the beginning of the path is responsible for perfecting and coordinating all the other limbs. Even the more shallow stages of samadhi enjoyed to begin with bring very deep rest to the entire system. The reduced metabolic rate enables accumulated stress and tension to be neutralized. While the body experiences this profound rest, the mind is bathed in silence. Familiarity with this rested state will result in a healthier nervous system, a calmer, clearer mind, and a more harmonious and responsible way of living. These in turn are conducive to samadhi, and so the whole process is cumulative. Important. Cumulative. Regular meditation leads to greater depths of inner silence until eventually the system is pure enough to experience the total restfulness of the self, that immensity in which all activity has ceased. Again, physiological process, purify the nervous system. Right? Page 58. It is significant that Patanjali uses the word limb. Anga. The 8 limbs of yoga together constitute one body. And as in any body, each limb grows simultaneously in proportion to all the others until full development is reached. Let me read that again. The 8 limbs of yoga together constitute one body. And as in any body, each limb grows simultaneously in proportion to all the others until full development is reached. It's an organic process. Had Patanjali wished to emphasize the idea of sequential steps, each to be completed before the next one begins, he would have used a word such as bhumi, which signifies a stage in yoga. As it is, his message is clear. Each limb is joined to the others, balancing and strengthening them as an integral part of a greater whole. The body of yoga grows by itself spontaneously. No amount of conscious effort to practice nonviolence, simplicity, integrity, and so on will achieve the desired effect. Any attempt to imitate what is considered a higher state can only result in strain and is a contradiction in terms, like trying to relax. You can't try to relax. So many people try to relax. Oh, I'm just going to move this one more way and then my muscle will be comfortable, or I'm just going to do this one more thing or say this one more thing, and I'm going to relax this time. I'm going to do it. I just know. No. You don't lay down in Shavasana and try to do Shavasana. You just take Shavasana.
Yeah.
There's no trying to relax. There's no trying to sit still to meditate. You just sit still and meditate. If you try, it negates the entire process. These qualities blossom naturally as a result of right meditation. Real change comes from within. For any change into a new state of being is the result of the fullness of nature unfolding inherent potential. That's beautiful. Any change into a new state of being is the result of the fullness of nature unfolding inherent potential. Okay? So again, these limbs are limbs, they're not steps. You don't do yama and then niyama and then move on to asana, and once you've perfected all your asanas, then you can move on to pranayama. Once you've perfected every breathing exercise there is, then you can move on to... No, that's not how we do. That's not how we practice yoga. They're limbs, they're not steps. They're branches off of one tree. You don't do them in order. Okay? Although when you practice your daily practice, you do start with asana, you move on to pranayama, pratyahara, retirement of the senses. What do you use for that in your practice? Right after pranayama.
Sushumna breath or breath awareness?
Right after Sushumna breath, because that's still pranayama. Breath awareness.
Yeah.
Breath awareness. Retirement. The easiest way to retire the senses, find your breath. Find your breath.
The Ajay really helps with that for me. I don't know. A lot of other people do.
What?
The tidal rhythm of the breath, I don't know if that's appropriate for meditation.
No.
It's not.
Ujjayi and meditation, no, definitely not.
Well, for the
That's
first couple,
counterproductive.
for the first couple minutes, it's good for me.
For the first couple minutes, you can do it.
Yeah. It does.
I'll teach you how to do the Ujjayi while you do the Sushumna breath.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah, do Ujjayi while you do Sushumna breath. When you're meditating, you want your breath to be as shallow and unnoticeable as possible. The person sitting 6 inches from you should not hear your breath when you're meditating. Okay? Pratyahara, breath awareness. Dharana, what do we use for that?
Mantra.
Mantra. Meditation. Samadhi. So you do actually go in order when you practice. Okay? And that influences your life, right? And your yamas and niyamas. But these all influence all the other ones. The better your pranayama gets, the better your pratyahara will get. And actually, the better your pratyahara gets, the better your asana becomes. And the more you experience deeper states of meditation and samadhi, the more it benefits the yamas and niyamas in your life. The better your asana becomes, the more comfortable you are, so the longer you can sit in meditation comfortably. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
They're integral. They're all interrelated. And they're all interconnected. You can't move on to one without moving on to the, improving in the others, all the others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like for me, I've been looking at these 8 limbs for a while. Even before we started studying it, I knew about it just from our discussions. And I'm finding that this Sushumna breathing and the pranayama is really where I need to start, because I have problems breathing, especially into this cavity here. But as I open that up, I'm able to take in a fuller breath. And then my breath awareness is better, and I can relax and sit still, and my asana is better. Then all the other things start coming.
And there might be somebody that comes into yoga and they're a swimmer,
Yeah.
and they've got lung capacity from gods, and they're just, pranayama is not an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But they might not be able to settle their mind, or they might have a gambling issue, or a severe addiction problem, or they lie a lot, or they cheat on their. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's going to start at a different place, and we all are going to be strong in different parts of these. When people typically think of yoga, just the word yoga, which one of these is the most prevalent, especially in the West?
The most what?
Prevalent, or the most dominant?
Asana.
Asana. When people say yoga, they think that is yoga. Asana, that's yoga. Well, what do we know now? That's how much of yoga?
Just
1/8.
1/8 of yoga. So when you go to a yoga class, and if all they're doing is this, like you just go to a yoga class, all you do is asana for an hour and a half, you just did 1/8 of a yoga practice.
Just do an asana class.
You just did an asana class. So that's why we teach you, the pranayama, the breath awareness, the chanting, mantra, meditation, to incorporate all of this into a yoga practice, and then bring all of this back out into the world, so it helps you with the yamas and niyamas, right? And actually, the more you practice the yamas and niyamas, the better your meditations are going to be.
This stuff is probably great even to mention to beginners.
Definitely.
Maybe not their first class ever, but let them know that there's more to yoga than just the
I think so.
Absolutely. Sure.
I would have liked that when I started doing yoga. I just thought yoga was this for years.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
For years.
Prior to coming here.
But in a way, I think it's, people are ready to confront whatever they're ready to confront. So
Right.
if you present yoga as this, it will be now a lot of newspapers attacking yoga all over the world, because not all the governments and the groups wants people so aware. They like also to have people kind of in a stable, manipulated condition.
Yeah, well, they like to give you the 10 Commandments, right? But they don't like to tell you how to do.
It's
That's why I like
different.
yoga.
This is for
Yoga's
people
like-
who really wants something else. Then okay, give you all the information.
Well, it's like, look at page 56. And you look at the 8 limbs. The yamas and niyamas, what does the first 10 things look like? The 10 commandments. They're pretty much the same.
Pretty much.
Well, most systems stop there. Here's these things you should do that are good for your life. I'm not going to tell you how to do them. But do them. Trust me. Yoga gives you 5 additional steps, actually, to help you do the 10 Commandments. Okay? That's why you can take yoga and add it to any religious system. It's just going to make you a better Jew. It's going to make you a better Catholic. It's going to make you a better Hindu. It's going to make you a better Jain, because they gave you all these extra awesome steps to use to live the moral life that is in all the scriptures. You can add yoga to any religious tradition. It doesn't interfere. It's just going to make you better at what you're already doing. It's just going to improve your Christianity, improve your Judaism, improve your Hinduism. Oh, there's a few more verses here after the 8 limbs. Any questions about the 8 limbs? Definitely know these, okay? Try to memorize these. And just know that, again, they're not necessarily practiced in sequential order or steps, right? They're parts of a whole. So, real quickly, I'm just going to go through this. Verse 30, the laws of life are 5. These are the yamas. Non-violence, truthfulness, integrity, chastity, non-attachment. Okay, 31, these laws are universal, unaffected by time, place, birth, or circumstance. Universal laws. Together they constitute the great law of life. The golden rule. Do unto others. Okay? Verse 32, the rules for living are 5. These are the niyamas. Simplicity, contentment, purification, refinement, surrender to the Lord. Okay? And I'm not going to go into the yamas and niyamas because y'all are teaching that, right? And y'all are doing the presentations on them, so I don't really want to talk about that too much more. So when we start back, we'll start back on verse 33. So go ahead for homework, read verses 33 through the end of chapter 2, which is verse 55 on page 112. So read 33 through 55, and we'll finish the second chapter when we come back from our break. And then we'll go through, and that'll be perfect because we're about at our halfway point, and we're about halfway through the sutras. So that's good. Perfect. Any questions? Cool.
Great.
Awesome.
I mean, the only question, not to do with particularly this, if you wanted to incorporate meditation in a yoga class that you're teaching, I know that technically it's supposed to come after Shavasana, but most people are rolling up their mats and
Yeah, exactly.
they're ready to leave.
Do it at the beginning when you center them.
At the very beginning, even if you wanted to do like a 5-minute meditation, and what if you really wanted to do a meditation?
Center them, do a little pranayama,
Yeah.
meditate for 5 minutes, and
And
then go into your
move
flow.
into-
Then start a class.
Okay.
In other words, don't have them sit down and dive right into meditation because they're still right there out there. Get them in there first, get them there, present. Center them, little pranayama, meditate 5 to 10 minutes, then start the flow.
Okay.
Funny you mentioned that because the Shivananda style, they actually used to do the pranayama and meditation after the class. We found that people kept leaving, so
Yeah.
they changed their whole style and they made the pranayama meditation in the beginning of the class.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
they
I've tried a few times doing pranayama
Yeah.
right after Shavasana.
Yeah.
People hate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Even though that's like technically the
Mhm.
The
classic
somewhat-
Raja Yoga traditional steps.
Could you do it right before Shavasana, or is that not?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, okay. Because they're done, but I mean, they're ready to go into Shavasana by the time they're done with their.
And the
Postures.
Shavasana, if I learn right, is for recreate the muscles, whether it's rope
Absorb
or
the
it's
experiences.
so it's
Everything
really
settles
needed.
back
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
place.
It's really needed in terms of the asanas, right?
You're right, and that's they should lay down
Break
right,
that.
right at the end of their practice. They should
Mhm.
lay down for
If not
10
this
minutes
side.
ish.
Okay.
Then they sit up, and then there's that energetic shift that occurs. That's when it's prime time to meditate. But
Right.
most folks, because their nervous systems, right, they're not purified and
Right.
refined, so they go into Shavasana and they fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People with refined and purified nervous systems go into Shavasana, they get a deep relaxation, they sit up, they still have tons of energy, they're ready to do pranayama and meditate, blah, blah, blah. So again, your average, suburbanite from Cumming, Georgia, who's got 3 kids, and works a full-time job and eats McDonald's every night, is coming to your class to do yoga, they're not ready for, 10 minutes of pranayama and 30 minutes of meditation after a yoga class.
Right.
They're ready to go home and watch American Idol and
Right.
pop some chicken fingers in the microwave for the kiddos and send them to bed. And who can blame them? I'd probably do the same.
Right.
So again, it's like gauge your class,
Yeah.
gauge the people you have. No two classes I teach are the same because you have different people in the class, and you have to modify accordingly.
Right.
Keep your central practice. Don't
Try to get.
try to adapt so much that
Right.
you lose who
Right.
you are as a yogi
Right.
and as a yoga teacher, but adapt enough to your clientele so that they'll come back. Because you.
And keep them in gradient because one step at a time.
Mm.
You cannot put one person that is the first time they're in yoga into meditation and say, let's go out.
Yeah.
They
I
want
guess-
action. A lot of people
Yeah.
come from the
For
workout.
the physical
so
part.
physical
Right.
part is a great
That's the first
exercise.
Baptiste.
So get them
And if you want to
engaged
teach,
and then boom.
and if you want to teach that type of class when you get out of here, if you're more into the hot yoga, core power flow stuff, and that's what you want to do, or Ashtanga or whatever,
Power.
cool. But, know there's other stuff. Because a lot of teacher trainings, people get out of teacher training, and they still think yoga's this.
Yeah.
So we just want y'all to know there's a lot to yoga, thousands of years worth of stuff, And Azut's going to teach you that, well, it's not just yoga. It's Tai Chi, it's Qigong, it's all these other traditions from other parts of the world that are equally as old and equally as rich. So,
With the same purpose?
it's essentially the same purpose.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. So it's like,
Same principle.
yeah. So, again, yoga's not just this, it's tons of stuff, right?
To basically you're trying to reach enlightenment. That was the purpose all of this stuff was even created, to really reach enlightenment. I mean, more say I'm using very, generally, yeah. So all of the other systems are basically trying to do the same thing, to reach enlightenment, to reach this, samadhi, to reach, this point of
And they
connection.
also have this Kundalini.
Yes, they just say it in
concept.
different names,
different
different words, concepts, but it's generally the
And
same.
also opens doing that Tai Chi and Qigong,
It
open this
It
Kundalini.
can flow,
with
yeah,
another
sure,
word.
sure, yeah. Yeah, there's different names, but it's the same. That's why,
What's the
Yin and yang.
kind of a different question? But what's the terminology? We're practicing yoga, but it's more like you're living it.
Yes, it's a
Like
lifestyle.
Doing it, you're not.
This encompasses your entire 24 hours of your whole day.
Right,
doesn't it?
because people only think like I'm just going to go to yoga class, and then it's just like a class, and that's it.
And they think they're a yogi. Going to
Right.
one asana class a week does not make one a yogi.
Right, for sure, like totally.
You
You're
know what
not
I'm
a
saying?
practitioner. A lawyer doesn't just, or a doctor, I should say, or a lawyer. Actually, that's not. I don't want to use them as examples. But anyhow, someone that's a practitioner
Practice, yeah,
is in a practice.
Right.
That's why it's called practitioner.
you're always practicing.
You're always practicing. So
Right.
but it's like you're living your practice. You're living your trade, almost like a trade. Like a baker used to be a baker. A carpenter was a carpenter.
Right.
That's what they did. But it's like their lifestyle. They're
Right.
who they are.
Right.
So
And we'll talk more about the lifestyle stuff too when we talk about Ayurveda.
Right.
Yeah.
But you already know some of it just from the yamas and niyamas.
Sure.
And knowing that if you want to do all these things, you have to have a certain lifestyle to be able just to even do these things.
Right.
Just to be able to do a pranayama or a downward dog
Right.
or a headstand
Right.
or sit still for 30 minutes. There's certain things in your certain lifestyle you have to have or you just can't.
Right. It just wouldn't fit.
It was sad that you wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want
If you
to.
didn't have a certain lifestyle, why would you want to waste 30 hours doing
Right,
something
exactly.
That goes in it too.
and not doing
Niyama.
anything?
Right.
So I think you wouldn't even want to.
Right.
yeah,
I guess what I'm getting
It's all. This is all lifestyle.
Yeah.
This whole thing is lifestyle.
Yeah.
All of it's lifestyle.
It's more about like being yoga than doing yoga.
right, sure.
You know,
That's
you
good.
like switch.
Well, but again, not everyone's going to be that way when you first come.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it takes time and practice
Right.
for one to realize it for themselves. That okay, I want to go through some kind of process for consciousness growth, for growing my soul, or enlightenment, or whatever.
Right.
They're there to really grow. And actually, everyone who comes to class, they were brought there for a purpose.
Right.
Something brought them there, whether it's physical, I want to lose weight, whatever. They're there. They're gonna get more. They could have gone to the gym and just I'm gonna go work with a personal trainer.
Right.
But they came to the yoga class,
Right.
so there's a purpose to that. So really get them to see that.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
I want to add a comment here. See, Chris practices that best he can, I know, at Hetty's place.
Mhm.
And it comes across.
Mhm.
And when we have new students, you should see them glowing.
Yeah.
Because it's not just asana.
Right.
And they'll sit and they'll talk and they're just, their eyes are glazed and they're excited again. It's pretty amazing that you can have that.
And that's what I live for, and that's what all you will live for when you start teaching. And because you've had me and Azut and Carolina to show you that there's so much more to yoga than just asana, you'll go out and you'll teach your classes and you'll incorporate these things, and people are just going to be glowing and blissed out of their brains when they walk out of your class. And it's not that you did that. You understand?
You're just a facilitator.
But you're a facilitator because you have certain knowledge that they don't have. They don't know how to do that.
Right.
Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. In an hour and a half of your time, when you learn how to do these practices right, and again, it's not about getting blissed out of your brain, but man, it feels pretty good. In an hour and a half of your time, if you know what you're doing and your nervous system is okay, it doesn't even have to be great. You can get blissed out of your brain. But people, they don't even know they can do that.
Right.
They don't even know they're capable of that. They have to come to your class and pay you money to show them how to stretch and breathe so they can feel good.
It's so rewarding.
But it's cool because now you all have that knowledge and you can teach people how to stretch and breathe and feel
that's
good.
the rewarding part. Yeah.
And it just feels so good to impart that to others because
Help
you
people
have a
feel
purpose in your life. That's like more than whatever normal purpose would be.
Gordon, what you said just reminded me of something. And Chris, I think do you remember the little girl who went to one of your classes on a Tuesday night? She was 9 years old. I got to share this with all of you because it's just such a great story. Just a couple days ago I found this out. She took one class. She's 9 years old. She took the whole hour, 15-minute class. She was focused. I mean, I asked her how she felt afterwards. She said, great, great, great. Her mom told me that a room in their house became vacant because one of their friends moved out. She went into that room, put a sign that said yoga studio on the door, painted a picture of a Buddha, stuck it on the wall, painted another yoga picture, stuck it on the wall, and she goes in and practices yoga.
Oh, that's great.
In her yoga studio. She's 9 years old, has taken one class. And
that's great.
so therefore, and her mom will go by and she'll be trying to do some kind of,
you have no idea the influence you can have over folks. Carolina, that's one kid. Carolina taught elementary school, and she taught like essentially the entire student body yoga. Hundreds of young minds learning yoga. Now, you think that's not going to affect them, or you think they're not going to remember that in 10 years?
Right.
Oh, they're going to remember. They're all going to be little yogis. Just wait. Just wait. They're all going. When you tap into something like that at such an early age, and you have an experience with that, you don't forget.
Yeah.
You can try. You can try real hard, but you won't. And at some point in your life, that seed that was planted when you were 7 or 8 is going to bloom, and you're just going to be this amazing person and yogi and stuff. That's what Azut lives for. That's what I live for. That's what Carolina lives for. And that's what you all will live for when you're on the other side and you're teaching people yoga. I mean, a story like that, that was worth me going through a whole year of yoga teacher training. And like everything I went through just for that one little thing.
and it was like, 3 months ago? So she took one yoga class, and as soon as she had the opportunity, 3 months later, she didn't forget. She went and made her yoga studio, and she is practicing yoga.
Sure.
So I was like, wow.
Yes.
I was just so thrilled to hear that. And I knew I had to pass that on, but I didn't remember until Gordon mentioned his story about Chris's students, and it's just like, wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's a cycle of inspiration. There's people that inspired me to do that.
Yes,
it's being one. And then you take that inspiration and then you shoot it back out into all of you, and you're going to take that and you're going to shoot it back out to everybody else, and it grows exponentially, right? Because the population gets bigger and bigger. It's pretty cool.
And I think we were talking about teaching kids yesterday, and teaching them. There are kids nowadays. I'm seeing that too. It's interesting. Kids are getting a little bit more receptive now, where they're getting it, and they know already. They get that energy aspect already. So that's how open they already are.
Oh yeah, these kids nowadays.
Yeah. So teaching them might be like to teach them might be a little different, but for the most part, I mean, we're not talking about all kids, but most kids. But now they're starting to open and say, yeah, you know, they feel something with that, with the practice. Yeah. So children is big time. I think it's going to change. This whole yoga is
The
going
other
to
day
change.
I was
and
giving
grow,
class to my husband and my kid, and Sandy said, "Mommy, please just jump to the meditation." And I was like, "What?" Yeah. I
Sounds
was
like
sorry.
me.
And he was like sitting like that and watch it. He was asking for it. Like,
Very nice.
okay.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
good stuff.
You're like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
That's the
great.
future. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
everybody's going to be doing yoga and meditating in the future, even 5-year-olds.
Yeah,
It's all coming to that, so
yeah.
you'll be the leaders, you know.
Yes, that's what we want and need. We really need you guys to go and just spread that energy.
Yeah, I was watching that video this morning I was telling you about, and Roy was talking about how the population of the planet right now can really hold or support, you know, several thousand spiritually enlightened masters, you know, like, or spiritual teachers, basically, you know, several thousand. And you look around, there's only a handful of supposed, whatever, you know, masters or whatever. And he said that in the future, and especially right now, because so many people are hungry for this stuff,
Yes.
the world is requiring, there's a giant demand for teachers.
Yes.
Not necessarily spiritually enlightened masters either. Just teachers that can teach the basic principles of this stuff, the philosophy, the techniques, the approach, the lifestyle. The world is in desperate need of teachers.
Sorry, I was thinking about the previous one. When you are by a person who's full of light, I don't know if it's enlightenment, it's completely, but it immediately you feel different. So maybe yes, it's good for him and he blah blah blah. It's his journey, but being by a person like that boosts.
It's extremely beneficial, and it will, just being in the presence of someone like that, it helps, and it will raise your consciousness automatically. You don't really even have to do anything, just be there. But, and that's good, but you're not going to become enlightened just from being in the physical presence of a master.
Right.
So 23, the self is obscured by the world in order that the reality of both may be discovered. What do you think that means? What do you think he's saying there?
I think
It's pretty deep.
that it's confusing and the self, and once it's what it really is, what the world.
In the world, one who can tell the difference. This is infinite, this is not. There are 7 stages in the growth of this wisdom. And I'm going to read a commentary that describes those 7 stages, because you notice he doesn't tell you the 7 stages, does he? He just says there are 7 stages in the growth of this wisdom. Okay, what are they? Patanjali, remember, this is a thin text, right? This was not meant to be a treatise on everything yoga, okay? It's a super short, succinct, concise text that was meant to actually be later unpacked by someone that was knowledgeable and could explain its contents. So it's like the blueprint. It's our job to expand upon that blueprint, right? So luckily, I have a commentary that tells me the 7 stages, so I'll read them to you. At the first stage, we discern the restrictive conditions that must be removed and are inclined to commit to concentrated, constructive spiritual practice. So verse 22, although the limitations of the world disappear for one who knows the self, capital S, they are not destroyed because they continue to exist for others. Although the limitations of the world disappear for one who knows the self, they are not destroyed because they continue to exist for others. So just because somebody else is enlightened, that really has nothing to do with you. That's why people that talk about their guru, my guru is so enlightened, he's the highest stage of enlightenment, he's completely liberated, blah, blah, good for him. he knows the limitations of the world have disappeared for him because he knows his true self. But they're not destroyed because they continue to exist for you. So, again, you have to do the work, right? 23. The self is obscured by the world in order that the reality of both may be discovered. The self is obscured by the world in order that the reality of both may be discovered. The self is liberated from its identification with the world. This liberation is enlightenment. Okay, when ignorance is destroyed, the self, the soul, is liberated from its identification with the world. Why?
Why? Because you really know yourself. You have truth self. So in that moment, everything becomes light.
So when you discover that you are infinite, why are you liberated from your identification with the world?
Because the world is impermanent.
Right, because the world is finite. So when you discover, when you realize, beyond the shadow of any doubt, that you're infinite, you no longer identify with anything that is not infinite. This liberation is enlightenment. Verse 26. Ignorance is destroyed by the undisturbed discrimination between the self and the world. The undisturbed discrimination between the self and
What the self is confusing at first, and once you start to wake up, then what it really is discovered.
That's right. So when you wake up, are you just understanding the spiritual realms? Are you just enlightened regarding the spiritual realms, or are you enlightened regarding the spiritual and the physical realms, right?
Your perception about what is outside is completely different when you're alive. That's the point?
Yeah, and so not only do you gain knowledge of the soul and God and all, you understand the world too now, too. In addition to the spiritual insight, you have a worldly insight. You understand this realm as well at the same time. Okay? So enlightenment is enlightenment and knowledge of the soul, God, but it's also knowledge and enlightenment about this world that we live in too. Both. He says both may be discovered. 24. It is the ignorance of our real nature that causes the self to be obscured. We talked about that last time. When ignorance is destroyed,